Welcome back to the Raven Files. Tonight we return to the cursed ground beneath Xi'an, a place where the dead do not rest. The soil remembers every forgotten name, and one child without a face is beginning to open its eyes. In part 3 of the Corpse-Nourishing Land, Shen Yao will uncover the truth her mother buried years ago. The 5th rule is coming. The heart must be found before dawn. But some secrets are not hidden beneath the earth. Some secrets are hidden inside the living. Turn down the lights, listen closely, and follow the trail into the darkness. This is the Corpse-Nourishing Land Part 3. The heart inside her. The faceless child stepped out from behind Shen Mei's legs. For one long second the underpass became silent. No dripping water, no wind slipping through the broken drainage pipes, no distant sirens from the blocked construction site above. Only the child. It stood barefoot on the wet concrete, small enough to be mistaken for a lost child from far away. Its pale hospital gown hung loosely from its thin shoulders. Mud clung to its knees. Black soil had dried along the hem of the gown like old blood, but there was no blood on it. Only earth. Deep earth. Burial earth. Its face was still smooth. No eyes, no mouth, no nose, but Shen Yao could feel it looking at her. The phone in her trembling hand glowed brighter. The 5th rule will be given at dawn. Before dawn, find the heart, or the child will open both eyes. The message vanished. Then a new line appeared. One eye has already begun to wake. Shen Yao stopped breathing. Han Rui stepped in front of her, one arm slightly raised as if his body alone could shield her from something that had crawled out of a grave older than the city itself. Don't look at it, he whispered. I'm not, Shen Yao said. But her voice was barely sound. She was looking at the ground near the child's feet. She could see its small toes. She could see how they pressed into the water without making ripples. She could see something else too. Wherever the child stepped, the concrete darkened. Not wet. Rotten. Shen Mei stood behind the child, her face hidden beneath hanging hair. Her hospital gown was torn at the sleeve. Wet soil dripped from her fingertips. One hand still covered her eyes. Behind Shen Mei stood Shen Lihua. Shen Yao's aunt looked wrong in a quieter way. Her posture was too straight. Her expression was too empty. Her right hand hung at her side, blackened from the fingertips to the wrist. The skin cracked like burned wood. Yet her eyes remained open, pale, fixed, as if she had already seen the thing no living person should see, and had left part of herself behind. Yao Shen Mei whispered. This time the name sounded almost like her real mother. Not complete, not alive, but close enough to hurt. Shen Yao clenched her teeth so hard pain shot through her jaw. Han Rui did not move. Shen Mei took one slow step forward. The child moved with her. No, Han Rui said. Shen Mei stopped. A long, wet breath escaped from beneath her hair. My daughter, she said. I found your aunt. Shen Yao looked at Shen Lihua. Her aunt did not blink. Shen Yao remembered the last time she had seen Shen Lihua before all of this began. Her aunt had been sharp, practical, impatient with anything she could not control. She had argued with construction managers, shouted at police officers. demanded access to files and spoken Shen Mei's name, like a curse she was afraid to hear out loud. Now Shen Lihua looks like a puppet waiting for someone else to pull the thread. "What did you do to her?" Shen Yao whispered. Shen Mei's covered hand trembled. "I brought her back. That's not back." The child tilted its head. A soft, cracking sound came from its face. Han Rui grabbed Shen Yao's wrist. "Run!" They turned. Behind them, the underpass stretched into darkness, but the way out was no longer there. The stairs they had used to enter were gone. In their place stood an old brick archway that had not existed a moment earlier. Red paper talismans hung from the arch, soaked black with damp. Beyond it was not the street, not the construction fence, not the city. Beyond the arch was a narrow stone corridor sloping downward into the earth. Shen Yao felt cold spread through her chest. Han Rui stared at the corridor. That wasn't there. No, Shen Yao said. But it wants us to go in. From behind them, Shen Mei whispered again. "Find the heart." Shen Yao turned just enough to see the outline of her mother standing beneath the flickering tunnel light. "Where is it?" Shen Yao asked. Shen Mei slowly lowered the hand that covered her eyes. Han Rui pulled Shen Yao back. "Don't." But Shen Yao had already seen. Her mother's eyes were gone. Not empty sockets, not wounds. They were covered by a thin layer of dark soil, packed smooth and flat as if the earth itself had grown over them from the inside. Shen Mei smiled without joy. The heart is where the first child was buried. The faceless child raised one small hand. 5 black fingers, 5 marks. Shen Yao looked down at the back of her own hand. The 5 black finger marks the child had left there earlier pulsed faintly beneath her skin. Then the lights in the underpass went out. Something small laughed in the dark. Han Rui pulled her through the brick archway. The moment they crossed it, the underpass disappeared behind them. Stone swallowed the city. The corridor was narrow, old and damp. The walls were not made of modern concrete, but grey brick, uneven and ancient, with roots pushing through the cracks like black veins. Water dripped from somewhere above. The air smelled of clay mould rust and something sweet that Shen Yao did not want to name. Han Rui used the flashlight on his phone. The beam shook more than he probably wanted it to. Shen Yao looked behind them. The archway was gone. Only a sealed wall. Great Han Rui muttered, "That's fair." Shen Yao tried to smile, but her lips would not obey. "How long until dawn?" she asked. Han Rui checked his phone. No signal. The time still worked. 3:47 a.m. About 2 hours. 2 hours to find a heart under a cursed construction site. Could be worse. She looked at him. He swallowed. "I don't know how. I just said that because silence felt worse." They continued. The corridor curved downward. The farther they went, the older everything became. The bricks gave way to carved stone. The carved stone gave way to packed earth reinforced with dark wooden beams. Some beams were marked with characters so old Shen Yao could barely recognize them. But she recognized one symbol, a circle, a child inside it. 5 lines extending outward like fingers. She stopped. Han Rui noticed. "What is it? I've seen this before. Where Shen Yao touched the wall with 2 fingers. A flash of memory struck her so hard she almost fell. A red umbrella in the rain. Her mother's hand gripping hers. The smell of incense. A child crying behind a closed door. A woman screaming, "Do not let her look." Then darkness. Shen Yao jerked back. Han Rui caught her. "Yao." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "I was here." His face changed. "What when I was little," she whispered. "I think my mother brought me here." Han Rui looked down the corridor. The flashlight beam reached only 10 meters ahead before being swallowed. Why would she bring a child under a construction site? It wasn't a construction site then. What was it? Shen Yao looked at the symbol again. The carved child inside the circle seemed to be facing her now, though the drawing had not moved. I don't know, but she did. Some part of her had always known. That was the worst part. Han Rui rubbed his left wrist. Shen Yao noticed the movement. It was small, almost unconscious, but it was not the first time. He had done it twice since they entered the tunnel. Always when the humming grew closer. "What's wrong with your wrist?" she asked. "Nothing." "You keep touching it." Han Rui pulled his sleeve lower. "Old injury." Shen Yao looked at him a moment longer. He did not meet her eyes. Somewhere ahead a child began to hum. Soft. Thin. Almost like a lullaby. Han Rui's hand went to his wrist again. This time Shen Yao saw pain flash across his face before he hid it. They found the first body 20 minutes later. It was not fresh. It sat against the wall in a collapsed section of tunnel knees, drawn to its chest head, bowed as if sleeping. The clothes had rotted almost completely away, but a safety helmet lay beside it, cracked down the middle. A plastic ID badge hung from the neck on a mouldy strap. Han Rui crouched, careful not to touch the remains. "Construction worker," he said. Shen Yao held the flashlight closer. The badge was cloudy with dirt, but the name was still readable. Zhou Ping. Her stomach twisted. "He went missing during the first excavation," she said. Han Rui looked up. "You know him, I saw his name in the reports." "The public reports, nah." She hesitated. "My aunt's files." Han Rui stood. What else was in those files? Shen Yao did not answer right away. Before tonight she had believed the files were about corruption, illegal digging, a hidden tomb, a construction company trying to bury evidence. Her aunt had believed it too, but now she understood that the missing workers were not only victims of an accident. They had found something, and whatever they found had learned how to call people down. Han Rui lifted the badge with the edge of a pen from his pocket. Behind the badge, scratched into the plastic, were 5 words. "Do not feed the land." The corpse's head moved, just slightly. Shen Yao froze. Han Rui stopped breathing. A dry clicking noise came from inside the dead man's throat. Then his jaw opened. Soil spilled out, not a little. A stream of black soil poured from his mouth onto his chest, down his ribs onto the floor. Inside the soil were small white things. Teeth. Children's teeth. Shen Yao covered her mouth. Han Rui backed away. "Move." The corpse lifted one hand. His fingers curled slowly toward Shen Yao, not reaching, pointing at her. From deep inside the dead throat came a voice. Not Zhou Ping's, not human. "The heart walks." The flashlight died. Han Rui cursed. In the darkness, the dead man whispered again, "The heart walks." Then something began crawling inside the walls. They ran. The tunnel split 3 times. Han Rui chose left, then right, then down, guided by nothing except instinct and fear. The crawling sound followed them through the earth. Sometimes it came from behind, sometimes from above, once impossibly from below their feet. Shen Yao's lungs burned. The 5 marks on her hand burned worse. At the next turn, Han Rui slipped on wet stone and slammed shoulder first into the wall. Shen Yao grabbed him and pulled him upright. "Keep going," he said through his teeth. "Your shoulder." Still attached. They stumbled into a wider chamber. Han Rui shoved the door closed behind them. It was an old wooden door, thick and swollen with damp. He dropped a rusted iron bar into brackets across it. Something hit the other side immediately. Once, twice, then stopped. Shen Yao and Han Rui stood still. No sound. Then from the other side of the door, Shen Mei's voice whispered, "Yao, open the door." Shen Yao closed her eyes. Han Rui shook his head. Shen Mei scratched softly at the wood. "I'm cold." Shen Yao bit her lip until she tasted blood. "I know that's not you," she whispered. The scratching stopped. For a moment there was only silence. Then Shen Mei said very gently, "When you were 7, you hid under the kitchen table because you broke my blue bowl. You thought I would be angry. I sat on the floor and told you broken things could still hold flowers." Shen Yao's eyes filled instantly. Han Rui looked at her. "That could still be a trick," he said softly. "I know, but," Shen Mei continued, "you had a fever that winter. You kept saying there was a child standing at the window. I told you it was a dream." Shen Yao's blood turned cold. "You remember now, don't you?" Shen Mei whispered through the door. Shen Yao stepped closer despite herself. Han Rui grabbed her arm. "Don't open it." "I won't." But she needed to hear. "Mom," she said. The word came out broken. On the other side of the door, something exhaled. "I should have let you remember." Shen Yao touched the wood. "What did you do?" Shen Mei was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "I buried the wrong child." The door shook violently. Han Rui pulled Shen Yao back. Something slammed into the wood from the other side hard enough to crack it. Shen Mei screamed, but it was not a scream of attack. It was fear. "Find Professor Qin," she cried. He kept the names. Then the scream cut off. The chamber fell silent. Han Rui stared at the door. Professor Qin Shen Yao turned slowly. The chamber they had entered was not empty. It was an archive. Rows of metal cabinets stood against the walls, rusted but still upright. Old cardboard boxes were stacked beneath plastic sheets. A long table filled the center of the room. On it lay maps, photographs, broken measuring tools, burial diagrams, yellowed notebooks, and bundles of red thread tied to paper name tags. At the far end sat a man. He was slumped in a chair wearing an old grey suit covered with dust. For one terrible second, Shen Yao thought he was dead. Then the man lifted his head. His face was thin, ancient, and pale under the dust. His eyes were milky with cataracts, but he looked directly at them as if he had been waiting in the dark for years. "Shen Mei's daughter," he said. Shen Yao could not move. Han Rui raised the dead flashlight like a weapon. The old man smiled faintly. "That will not help." "Who are you?" Han Rui demanded. The man placed both hands on the table. His fingers were twisted with age. Around his wrists were red threads, so faded they were almost brown. Each thread disappeared under his sleeves as if tied not only around his arms, but through his flesh. "Qin Wenliang," he said, "former archaeological consultant for the Xi'an Eastern Foundation Project, former professor, former coward." Shen Yao's throat tightened. "You know my mother. I knew what your mother did." He looked toward the cracked door. "And I helped her do it." Han Rui stepped forward. "Then you can help us undo it." Professor Qin gave a dry laugh. "No one undoes a burial. At best, we choose who remains beneath it." Shen Yao stared at him. "How are you alive down here?" Qin lowered his eyes to the red threads around his wrists. "I am not alive in the way you mean." The room seemed to grow colder. He lifted one hand. The threads tightened beneath his skin. Shen Yao saw movement under the surface, like roots, shifting inside him. "The land began eating me years ago," Qin said. "The name slowed it down. Every name remembered is a stone in its mouth. Every name forgotten gives it teeth." Han Rui looked at the paper tags. "These names are keeping you alive," No Qin said. "They are keeping me unfinished." The door behind them creaked. Shen Yao looked back. The crack in the wood was slowly widening. "We don't have time," she said. "What is the heart?" Professor Qin's expression changed. For the first time, he looked afraid. Not what he said. "Who?" Shen Yao felt the floor tilt beneath her. Han Rui said, "Explain." Chine opened one of the notebooks on the table. The pages were brittle. He turned them carefully until he found an old photograph. He pushed it towards Shen Yao. The photograph showed the construction site before it was a construction site. A bare field at the edge of the city. Several workers stood near an open pit. Archaeologists in white gloves bent over a stone coffin. Police tape marked the perimeter. At the center of the image stood Shen Mei, younger, alive, holding the hand of a little girl, Shen Yao. She was 6 or 7, wearing a yellow raincoat and red shoes. Her face was turned toward the pit. Shen Yao's breath stopped. "I don't remember this." "You were not meant to," Qin said. Han Rui leaned over the photograph. "Why was she there?" Professor Qin looked at Shen Yao, not Han Rui. "Because your mother came looking for your father." The room went colder. Shen Yao stared at him. "My father died in a car accident." No Qin said. "Your father disappeared here." The words entered Shen Yao slowly like a blade pushed through cloth. "No," she whispered. Qin's face was full of terrible pity. "Your mother told you he died because the truth was worse." He was one of the first engineers sent to survey the land. They found the burial chamber before permits were finalized. The company wanted silence. Local officials wanted progress. We wanted to study the tomb. Everyone wanted something. And the land, Han Rui asked. Qin looked at him. The land wanted children. The door cracked again. A thin line of black soil poured through. Qin moved faster than Shen Yao expected. He grabbed a clay jar from beneath the table and poured white ash across the threshold. The soil hissed when it touched the ash. The scratching stopped. "For a while," Qin said. "Only for a while." Shen Yao pointed at the photograph. What happened to me? Chin turned another page. This one held a hand-drawn map of the burial chamber. At its center was a circular pit. Around the pit were 5 smaller coffins. 5. Shen Yao looked at the mark on her hand. Professor Chin spoke quietly. This was not a royal tomb. Not exactly. It was a punishment ground. A place where unwanted deaths were hidden and worshipped, then feared. Over generations, people fed the soil with bodies that could not be properly named. Prisoners, servants, orphans, children born under bad signs. The forgotten. Han Rui's jaw tightened. The corpse-nourishing land, he said. Chin nodded. The old belief said that if enough wronged dead were placed beneath one patch of earth, the land would become hungry. It would preserve bodies. It would grow roots through bone. It would dream with the dead. And if someone gave it a child without a name, that child would become its mouth. Shen Yao remembered the faceless child standing in the underpass. Smooth skin, no mouth, no eyes. A child without a name, she said. Chin's hand trembled over the notebook. When we opened the deepest chamber, we found a small coffin sealed under the foundation stone. No name, no inscription, only 5 handprints on the lid. The coffin should never have been opened. But it was, Han Rui said. Chin did not deny it. The first worker who touched it vanished that night. Then another. Then your father. Your mother came here in grief. She demanded answers. She brought you because she had nowhere else to leave you. Shen Yao shook her head. I don't remember my father. You did then, Chin said. You cried for him at the edge of the pit. A memory flashed. A man's voice laughing. Large hands lifting her. The smell of rain on a wool coat. Then screaming. Shen Yao gripped the table. Chin continued. Your father was not dead when your mother found him. Shen Yao looked up. He was inside the chamber. Her vision blurred. No. He had followed the sound of a child crying. That is how it calls people. It uses what they cannot abandon. Han Rui looked toward the door. And Shen Mei tried to save him, she tried, Chin said. But the land does not release what it has swallowed. Your father was alive but not alone. There were roots in him, soil in his mouth. He begged her not to come closer. Shen Yao's hand shook. What happened to me? Chin closed his eyes. You heard the child. Silence fell. The faceless child, Han Rui asked. Chin nodded. It called from the open coffin. You walked toward it. Your mother ran after you. Your father used the last of his strength to stop the chamber door from closing. But the child touched your hand. Shen Yao looked at the 5 black marks. They were there before she whispered. Yes. But they disappeared. They were hidden. How Professor Chin did not answer. Shen Yao leaned over the table. How Chin opened the final notebook. Inside was a page covered with old characters, modern notes, and a photograph of a wooden box. The same box Shen Yao had seen in her vision. The same box she had believed might be the heart. Chin touched the image. The heart is the anchor. Every corpse-nourishing land has one. A first wrong, a first bargain, a first child. The land cannot continue unless the heart remains buried, forgotten, and unnamed. So we find the box and destroy it, Han Rui said. Qin looked at him with deep sadness. The box is empty. Han Rui went still. Shen Yao whispered, "Then where is the heart?" Professor Qin looked at her and said nothing. The silence answered for him. Shen Yao stepped back from the table. "No." "Your mother had a choice," Qin said. "No. If the child opened both eyes that night, everyone above the site would have died. The buried dead had already begun to wake. Your father was gone. The workers were gone. Your mother had only minutes. No. She begged me for another way." Shen Yao's voice broke. "What did she do?" Qin's eyes filled with tears. "She gave the child what it wanted." Han Rui stared at him. "What did it want a place inside the living?" The door shook. The ash line darkened. Qin continued faster now. "Your mother used an old sealing rite. She took the nameless child's heart from the coffin and bound it into the nearest living vessel. You." Shen Yao could not hear anything for a moment. Not the door, not Han Rui calling her name, not Professor Qin's voice, only her own heartbeat, too loud, too heavy, as if something else had been beating with it all her life. "I was a child," she said. Qin lowered his head. So was it. The words hit harder than any accusation. Shen Yao staggered away from the table. Han Rui caught her. "Yao." She pushed him off, not because she was angry at him, but because she could not bear to be touched. "My mother put that thing inside me." "She saved your life," Qin said quietly. "She used me. She saved thousands. She used me." The door cracked open another inch. A small hand slipped through. Smooth, pale, 5 black fingers. The child's hand reached toward the room. Professor Qin grabbed another jar, but his hands shook too badly. The jar slipped and shattered on the floor. Ash scattered uselessly across the stones. Han Rui grabbed an iron rod from beside the cabinets and slammed it against the reaching hand. The hand bent backward with a soft, wet snap. The child did not cry. Instead, from beyond the door, Shen Lihua's voice said, "Yao, your mother lied to you." Shen Yao turned. Her aunt's face appeared in the crack, one eye visible, wide, pale, dead and aware. She lied to everyone. Han Rui pressed the iron rod against the door, trying to force it shut. "Don't listen." But Shen Lihua smiled. "She never saved you. She saved herself from choosing who should die." The door pushed inward. Han Rui strained against it. Professor Qin shouted, "The western passage." Go Shen Yao did not move. Her aunt's eye fixed on her. "Ask him why his wrist hurts." The room froze. Han Rui looked back. Shen Yao slowly turned to him. What Han Rui's face was pale. "I don't know what she means." Shen Lihua laughed softly. It did not sound like her. The land only writes to blood, bone, or debt. The door burst open. Han Rui was thrown backward. The faceless child stood in the doorway. Behind it, Shen Mei and Shen Lihua waited like shadows wearing human grief. Professor Qin grabbed Shen Yao's arm. "Run now." He shoved her toward a narrow passage behind the archive shelves. Han Rui scrambled up, grabbed the notebook from the table and followed. Professor Qin did not. Shen Yao looked back, "Professor." The old man stood between them and the child. He pulled back his sleeves, revealing dozens of red threads tied around his arms. each thread marked with a tiny paper name tag. I kept the names he said. Now I return them. The child tilted its smooth face toward him. Professor Chin began to recite. Not a prayer. Names. Zhou Ping. Ma Jian. Liu Sheng. He Chao. Tang Min Shu Lily. With each name, one red thread on his arm burned away. The child took a step forward. Professor Chin's voice grew stronger. Names filled the chamber. Worker names. Forgotten names. Children's names. The archive cabinets began to rattle. Papers flew into the air. Old photographs peeled themselves from the table and spun like dead leaves. Shen Mei raised both hands to cover where her eyes should have been. The child stopped. For the first time, its smooth face trembled. A line appeared where a mouth might have been. Not open, not formed, remembering. Professor Chin turned once toward Shen Yao. The rules are not laws, he said. They are instructions from the thing that wants to survive. The child's head snapped toward him. Chin smiled sadly. Do not obey the land. Listen to the names. Then the chamber collapsed into darkness. Han Rui dragged Shen Yao into the passage as dust and stone roared behind them. They ran until the ground stopped shaking. When they finally slowed, Shen Yao's legs almost gave out. Han Rui caught her again. For a while, neither of them spoke. The passage was lower here. They had to bend their heads to avoid roots hanging from the ceiling. The air was colder. Somewhere far ahead, water flowed. Han Rui still held Professor Chin's notebook. Shen Yao looked at it. He knew he was going to die. Han Rui nodded. He was already half gone, punishing himself, or guarding the names. Shen Yao laughed once, empty and bitter. Everyone keeps telling me people did terrible things for good reasons. Han Rui did not answer. She looked at him. What did my aunt mean? His grip tightened around the notebook. About what? Don't do that. He closed his eyes briefly. Yao. She said the land only writes to bloodbone or debt. Shen Yao held up her phone. I understand why it writes to me now. Bloodbone, heart, whatever I am. But why did your wrist hurt when the child came closer? Han Rui looked down. For the first time since she had met him, he looked truly afraid. Not of ghosts, not of death, of the answer. My father worked this case, he said. Shen Yao stared at him. What? He was a police officer, not high-ranking, not important, just one of the first responders when the workers disappeared. You never told me. I didn't know it was connected until tonight. Don't lie to me. His face tightened. I'm not. Shen Yao stepped closer. You followed this from the beginning. You knew more than you said. I knew there was an old missing persons case. I knew my father left files he wasn't supposed to have. I knew your mother's name appeared in them. He swallowed. I didn't know about the child. I didn't know about you. Shen Yao wanted to believe him. That was what frightened her. What happened to your father? Han Rui looked down the tunnel. He came home one night covered in dirt. My mother said he kept washing his hands until they bled. He told her he heard children under the floor. A week later, he vanished. Shen Yao's anger faltered. Han Rui's voice became quieter. I was 9. The official report said he abandoned his family. My mother believed it until the day she died. I didn't. He opened his left hand. For the first time, Shen Yao noticed a scar across his palm. 5 faint lines, old, almost invisible. Her breath caught. You were touched too. Han Rui closed his hand. I don't remember it. Neither did I. That doesn't mean we're the same. No, Shen Yao said. It means we were both brought back from something. The words hung between them. From far behind, beneath layers of stone and earth, a child began to hum. The melody was simple, soft, almost like a lullaby. Shen Yao felt the marks on her hand pulse in time with it. Han Rui opened Professor Qin's notebook. We need to find the name. The child's name. He nodded. Chong said not to obey the land. Listen to the names. Shen Yao looked at the pages. Most were damaged. Some were written in shorthand. Others were filled with sketches of burial objects, diagrams of seals, lists of missing people, fragments of old local legends. Then she saw a page titled The 5 Rules of the Land. The first 4 rules had been written in black ink, but the 5th had been left blank. She turned the page. There was a note. The 5th rule is not given by the land. It is spoken by the heart. If the heart remembers itself, the land starves. If the heart remains nameless, the land feeds. Shen Yu read it twice. The 5th rule isn't a warning, she said. Han Rui frowned. What is it, a trap? Or a choice? Her phone buzzed. They both froze. The screen lit by itself. 4:52 a.m. Then the message appeared. Dawn approaches. The 5th rule is ready. Shen Yao's thumb hovered over the screen. Another line appeared. Do you want to know what your mother buried? Han Rui whispered. Don't answer. Shen Yao stared at the message. For most of her life, silence had protected her. Her father's death had been a lie. Her childhood fear had been called fever. Her mother's guilt had been hidden beneath love. Her aunt's investigation had been swallowed by the thing she was investigating. Everyone had decided that Shen Yao should not know, and because she had not known, the child had waited. No, she said softly. Han Rui looked at her. No, you won't answer. No, Shen Yao said. No more not knowing. She typed one word. Yes. The tunnel changed. The floor dropped away. Shen Yao fell into memory. She was small again. The rain was loud. Her red shoes splashed through mud as her mother dragged her across a field full of machines and lights. Men shouted. Someone cried for help from underground. Police officers blocked the entrance to the pit, but Shen Mei shoved past them with a force Shen Yao had never seen before. My husband is down there, Shen Mei screamed. You cannot seal it. A younger Professor Qin stood near the pit, face grey. Mrs. Shen, please. The chamber is unstable. My husband is alive. He is not alone. Shen Yao did not understand. She only knew her father had not come home. She remembered his hands. She remembered sitting on his shoulders during Lantern Festival. She remembered him teaching her to count the steps from their apartment door to the elevator. 32 if she walked normally, 40 if she hopped. She wanted him back. Then she heard it. A child crying. Not from the pit. From below her feet. Shen Yao looked down. The mud between her red shoes bubbled. A small voice whispered, I lost my name. Shen Yao let go of her mother's hand. No one noticed at first. Adults were arguing. Rain covered everything. She walked toward the open chamber. A man inside the pit turned his head. Her father. His face was pale. Soil streaked his cheeks. Something black moved beneath the skin of his neck, but his eyes were still his. Yao, he whispered. She smiled. Dad. His face broke with terror. Don't come down. But the crying child called again. I lost my name. Shen Yao stepped onto the first wooden ladder rung. Her mother screamed. The memory jumped. Darkness, cold stone, the smell of incense and wet soil. Shen Yao stood inside a circular chamber. 5 small coffins surrounded a central stone box. Her father knelt near the wall held upright by roots that had grown around his body. Shen Mei was crying. Professor Qin shouted instructions. A police officer lay unconscious near the entrance. The smallest coffin was open. Inside was a child wrapped in grey cloth. Not rotten, not skeleton, preserved. A little face hidden under a strip of linen. On the coffin lid were 5 black handprints. Shen Yao walked toward it. The wrapped child lifted one hand. Tiny fingers touched the back of Shen Yao's hand. Cold entered her body. The child whispered without a mouth, "Give me yours." Shen Yao did not know what it meant. She only knew she was suddenly very tired. Her father screamed. Shen Mei grabbed Shen Yao and pulled her back. But the black marks were already blooming on Shen Yao's skin. Professor Qin shouted. It has chosen her. Shen Mei held Shen Yao against her chest. Remove it. I can't. Remove it. If we break the contact now, she dies. Shen Yao's father raised his head. His eyes were full of soil. Mei, he said, listen to me. Shen Mei shook her head violently. No, let me go. No, save her. The chamber groaned. The central stone box cracked open. Inside was a wooden heart box bound with red thread. Something inside beat once. The sound shook dust from the ceiling. Professor Qin whispered, horrified. The anchor. Shen Yao's father looked at Shen Mei. Take it from the coffin. Qin turned on him. That will transfer the seal. Take it, her father said. Shen Mei stared at the wooden box. What will happen? Qin did not answer. Her father did. She lives. And you... He smiled with soil between his teeth. I'm already beneath the land. Shen Mei screamed his name. The roots pulled tighter. The child in the coffin sat up. Its face was covered in linen. But beneath the cloth, 2 eye shapes began to open. Professor Qin cried, Now! Shen Mei grabbed the wooden heart box. The moment she touched it, the chamber filled with children's voices. So many voices. Names forgotten, names erased, names never written. Shen Mei pressed the box against Shen Yao's marked hand. Her father began to recite something. Not a prayer, a name. But thunder cracked above them. Stone collapsed. The name was swallowed. The memory broke. Shen Yao woke on the tunnel floor, gasping. Han Rui was kneeling beside her, shaking her shoulders. Yaosha grabbed his arm. My father gave me the heart. Han Rui went still. He told my mother to do it. Tears ran down her face before she realized she was crying. He saved me. Han Rui helped her sit up. What else did you see? The child had a name. My father knew it. He tried to say it before the chamber collapsed. Han Rui opened Qin's notebook again, searching frantically. Then Qin may have written it down. Shen Yao wiped her face with the back of her hand. No, if he had the full name, this would be over. Maybe he had part of it. They searched page after page. The humming grew louder. Now it came from ahead of them, not behind. The child was waiting where they needed to go. At the back of the notebook, Han Rui found a folded sheet hidden inside the cover. He opened it. It was a rubbing taken from a stone inscription. Most of the characters were broken, but beneath Professor Qin's notes one line had been circled many times. The first name was not buried with the child. It was carried by the one who escaped. Shen Yao stared at the words. The one who escaped, Han Rui said. You. No, Shen Yao whispered. The tunnel wind moved through her hair like a breath. A memory surfaced, small and impossible. Her father kneeling in front of her before the rain, smiling. What did I tell you? Little sparrow names are important. If someone loses theirs, you must help them find the way home. She had giggled. What if I forget? He had tapped her forehead. Then keep it somewhere safer. Where he had touched her chest. In here. Shen Yao pressed one hand to her heart. Han Rui watched her. You know it. No. You do. I was 6. The land made you forget. That doesn't mean it's gone. Shen Yao stood slowly. The tunnel ahead opened into a stairway descending into red darkness. At the bottom something waited. A round chamber, 5 coffins, a central stone box, the same place from her memory. The first burial chamber. The place where her father died. The place where her mother made the bargain. The place where the heart entered her. Han Rui picked up the iron rod. Shen Yao looked at him. You don't have to come. He gave her a tired smile. I think we both know that's not true. Together they descended. The burial chamber had changed since Shen Yao's memory. The ceiling had partially collapsed, leaving roots hanging down in thick black curtains. Water dripped into the central pit. The 5 small coffins remained in their places, but all were open now. Empty. The central stone box was cracked. Inside it sat the wooden heart box. Open, empty. Shen Yao approached it with shaking steps. Her phone buzzed. 5:31 a.m. The first pale hint of dawn was somewhere above the city, but down here there was no morning. Only earth. Only waiting. The screen displayed the 5th rule. The 5th rule. Do not give the child your name. Han Rui frowned. That sounds wrong. The phone continued. To name the child is to wake it. To wake it is to feed the land. To feed the land is to bury the living. Han Rui looked at the phone. Qin was right. Shen Yao turned to him. The rules are not laws. They're instructions, Han Rui said. From the thing that wants to survive. The phone buzzed again. Your mother lied. Qin lied. Han Rui lied. Ask him what his father took. Shen Yao turned. Han Rui's face had gone completely white. What does that mean? He did not answer. Han Rui. He closed his eyes. My father found something in the chamber. What? A recording. Shen Yao stared at him. Of what? The night your father died. The chamber seemed to tilt. You had that this whole time, no? I found it 2 days ago in his old things. It was damaged. I couldn't hear most of it. You didn't tell me I was going to, when I knew it wouldn't destroy you." Shen Yao laughed once sharp and broken. "Everyone keeps making that choice for me." Han Rui reached into his jacket and took out a small digital recorder. Old, scratched, wrapped in plastic. My father copied it from police evidence before the case vanished. I think he believed it proved your father didn't abandon anyone. Then he disappeared before he could use it. Shen Yao looked at the recorder as if it were alive. "Play it. Yao, play it." Han Rui pressed the button. Static filled the chamber. Then voices, distorted by time, rain shouting, "Professor Chin, hold the seal, Shen Mei, she's dying." A man's voice, her father, weak but clear. "May, listen, the child's name." Static. Shen Yao stepped closer. The recording crackled. Her father coughed. "The child's name is not evil. They erased it. That's why it hungers." Shen Mei sobbed. "Tell me," more static. Then her father's voice softer. "Yao knows." Shen Yao stopped breathing. On the recording, her mother screamed, "She's a child." Her father answered, "So is the one in the coffin." The recorder hissed. Then another sound came through. A child crying. "Not the faceless child." Shen Yao. Her own small voice said, "I don't want to keep it." Her father whispered, "Only until someone is brave enough to give it back." The recording broke into static. Then at the very edge of sound he said one syllable. And the recorder died. Shen Yao stared at it. And Han Rui said, "That's all I could recover." Shen Yao whispered it. "An." The chamber reacted. Roots trembled. The 5 empty coffins creaked. The smooth-faced child appeared across the room. It stood beside the central stone box. For the first time, a mark had formed on its face. One closed eye, drawn beneath the skin like a bruise. Shen Yao stepped back. Han Rui raised the iron rod. The child ignored him. It lifted one hand and pointed at Shen Yao's chest. The phone in Shen Yao's hand lit again. "Do not give the child your name." Shen Yao looked at the child. "You don't want my name," she whispered. The child tilted its head. "You want yours." The closed eye on its face twitched. Behind it, Shen Mei emerged from the roots. Her eyeless face was turned toward Shen Yao. "Don't," Shen Mei whispered. Shen Yao's heart cracked. "Mom!" Shen Mei moved closer, trembling as if every step hurt. "Your father believed names could save the dead. He was always kinder than the world deserved." Her voice shook, but he did not hear what I heard after the chamber collapsed. "What did you hear?" Shen Mei's soil-covered eyes faced the child. The land thanked him. The chamber went silent. Han Rui whispered, "What?" Shen Mei's mouth twisted with grief. "When he gave the heart to you, the land did not starve. It survived. It learned patience. It learned that the living carry graves better than coffins do." The child stood perfectly still. Shen Mei turned back to Shen Yao. "If you give the heart back without the full name, it will not free the child. It will wake the land completely. Then help me remember. I can't." "Why?" Shen Mei's voice broke. "Because I was the one who made you forget." Shen Yao closed her eyes. The pain was no longer surprising, only deep. Shen Mei reached out but stopped before touching her. I could not bear it. Every night you woke screaming the same syllable. Every night the marks returned. You would point to the corner and say a child was waiting for its name. So I went back to Qin. I begged him to seal the memory. He warned me that forgotten names rot. I did it anyway. Why? Because I was your mother, Shen Mei said, and I was weak. Shen Yao looked at her. Shen Mei's voice became smaller. I did not choose the right thing, she whispered. I chose the only thing my fear allowed me to choose. The child raised its hand. The roots behind Shen Mei tightened around her shoulders. She gasped. Shen Yao stepped forward. Stop! The child's closed eye opened slightly. A thin black slit. The chamber shook. Han Rui grabbed Shen Yao. Yao, we need the full name now. Shen Yao pressed both hands against her head. An! An! A child in grey cloth. A rainy night. Her father's voice. Names are important. If someone loses theirs, help them find the way home. An! The phone buzzed violently. The child is opening its first eye. The faceless child's eye opened wider. Not human, not monstrous. Empty. A hole looking into wet soil and buried bones. The 5 coffins began to fill with black dirt from nowhere. Shen Mei screamed as roots pulled her backward. Shen Lehua appeared beside the chamber entrance, her blackened hand dragging along the stone. Her face was expressionless, but tears ran from her eyes. Real tears. Yao, she said. Shen Yao turned. Her aunt lifted her burned hand and pointed toward one of the coffins. The bracelet. What? Your mother kept the bracelet. Shen Mei cried out, Lihua, no! Shen Lihua's face twitched, fighting something inside her. She hid it because she was afraid you would remember. The child turned its opening eye toward Shen Lihua. Shen Lihua collapsed to one knee. Her blackened hand began to crumble, but she kept pointing. Third coffin, she gasped. Under the false bottom. Han Rui ran to the third coffin. The moment he touched it, all 5 coffins slammed shut except that one. The chamber lights, if they could be called lights, turned red. The child took one step toward him. Shen Yao moved between them. No. The child stopped. Han Rui tore at the rotted lining of the coffin. Beneath it was a thin wooden panel. He smashed it with the iron rod. Inside was a small cloth pouch. He grabbed it and threw it to Shen Yao. She caught it. The cloth was stiff with age. Inside was a child's bracelet made of faded red cord. A tiny silver plate hung from it. The name had been scratched almost completely away. Almost. Shen Yao held it close to the phone light. 3 marks remained. A-N. Then a broken character. Then another. Her head split with pain. And Yun. The chamber began to rotate around her. Han Rui shouted something, but she could not hear. The child was closer now. The half-open eyes stared into her. Shen Yao saw a field. Not the construction site. Older. Much older. A little girl running through tall grass. A woman calling after her. An Ning. The memory vanished. Shen Yao gasped. The chamber stopped shaking. The child froze. Shen Mei whispered horrified no. Shen Yao looked at the bracelet, the scratched plate, the lost name. An Ning, she said. The child's face cracked. An Ning. Peace. That was what someone had named her before the land took even that away. A child named Peace had been buried beneath hunger. A child named Peace had been turned into the mouth of the dead. The one half-open eye filled with tears. Real tears. Black at first, then clear. The roots recoiled. The 5 coffins burst open. Voices rose from beneath the floor. Not screams, names. Hundreds of names spoken all at once. Shen Yao stepped toward the child. Your name is An Ning. The chamber trembled. The child lifted both hands to its face. Where the second eye should be, the skin began to split. Han Rui shouted, Yao, wait! But the phone screen flashed. Error, error, error. Then the heart has spoken. The child lowered its hands. One eye was open. The other remained sealed. The first eye looked at Shen Yao. And for the first time a voice came from the child itself. Not through the phone. Not through the dead. A small voice. Not enough. Shen Yao's blood turned cold. What the child pointed at Shen Yao's chest again. Name it whispered. Heart. The chamber darkened. Shen Mei sobbed. I told you. Han Rui backed toward Shen Yao. What does it mean, not enough? Shen Yao looked at the child. It had a name now, but it still had no full face, no second eye, no freedom. Professor Chin's words returned. The heart is not what? Who? The heart walks. The heart is inside you. Shen Yao understood. Naming the child had awakened the truth, but it had not returned what her mother had taken. The child's heart was still beating inside Shen Yao. The phone glowed one last time. Final message before dawn. The name has been returned. The heart has not. The screen flickered. Then another line appeared. The heart must choose. Shen Yao looked at Han Rui. His expression told her he understood too. No, he said immediately. Shen Yao almost smiled. You don't even know what I'm thinking. Yes, I do. The chamber began to fill with dawnless wind. Above them, somewhere impossibly far away, the first morning light must have touched the construction fence. The child's second eye started to open. Slowly. The land beneath them groaned like a starving animal. Shen Mei reached for Shen Yao. Run, she pleaded. Let it sleep again. We can seal it. We can hide it. For how long? Shen Yao asked. Shen Mei could not answer. How many more people? Shen Yao asked. How many more missing workers, dead officers, buried children, broken families? Shen Mei shook her head. You are my daughter, and An Ning was someone's daughter too. The words destroyed whatever defense remained in Shen Mei's face. She lowered her head. Han Rui stepped closer to Shen Yao. There has to be another way. Maybe the hospital is where we find it, Shen Yao said softly. The child took another step, its first eye fixed on Han Rui. Then it pointed at him. Det, it whispered. Han Rui went still. Shen Yao turned. What? The child's voice grew clearer. Blood, bone, Det. Han Rui's hand tightened around the recorder. The mark on Shen Yao's hand burned. Then slowly Han Rui's left sleeve darkened. 5 black marks appeared on his wrist. Fresh. not scars. New. Shen Yao stared. Han Rui looked down as if he had never seen them before. The phone screen lit in Shen Yao's hand. Second vessel identified. Shen Yao stopped breathing. Han Rui whispered no. The child tilted its head. His father took the witness, it said. The recorder in Han Rui's hand cracked. Static poured out of it. Then his father's voice emerged. Not from the past. From the chamber. I'm sorry. Han Rui dropped the recorder. It shattered on the stone. Black soil spilled from inside. Shen Yao looked from the soil to Han Rui. What did your father take Han Rui backed away? I don't know. But the chamber answered. The roots behind him split open, revealing something embedded in the wall. A police badge, a bone whistle, and a small piece of grey burial cloth. Wrapped inside the cloth was a child's finger bone. Han Rui's face collapsed. His father had not only copied evidence, he had taken part of the child. A witness, a relic, a debt. That was why Han Rui could hear the humming. That was why his wrist hurt. That was why the messages had reached him too. That was why the land had called him back. Shen Yao was the heart. Han Rui was the witness. The child looked at them both. Then its second eye opened a fraction wider. The whole chamber screamed, not with one voice, with the land itself. Shen Mei threw herself between the child and Shen Yao. Enough, she cried. For one moment she looked like Shen Mei again, not a corpse, not a puppet, a mother. She turned her eyeless face towards Shen Yao. Listen to me. The heart cannot be forced out. If you try, you die and the land feeds. If you run, it follows. If you name it without paying the debt, it wakes. What do we do? Shen Mei reached into her torn gown and pulled out a red thread. At the end of it hung a small key. I kept one door closed. Shen Yao stared at it. What door? The room where your father finished the name. The chamber went silent again. Shen Yao could barely speak. My father is dead. Yes, Shen Mei whispered. But not everything he said was buried. She pressed the key into Shen Yao's hand. Under the old hospital. Basement level 3. Room 05. Qin hid the final record there before the archive was sealed. Han Rui looked up, hospital. Shen Yu remembered Shen Mei's gown. The pale hallway, the smell of disinfectant, the underpass voice. My daughter, I found your aunt. Shen Mei leaned close. The final door is where I tried to end it. The child's second eye opened wider. Shen Mei cried out as roots wrapped around her waist. Go, Han Rui grabbed Shen Yao's hand. But Shen Yao did not move. Mom. Shen Mei's face turned toward her. I hated you, Shen Yao whispered. Shen Mei trembled. I know. I still might, I know. But I don't want you to be alone down here. For the first time, Shen Mei smiled. A devastated human smile. I have been alone since the night I chose wrong. The roots pulled her back. Go choose better. Han Rui dragged Shen Yao toward the chamber entrance. Behind them, Shen Lihua screamed and threw herself against the roots, trying to slow them. Her burned hand broke apart completely, but she did not stop. The child stood in the center of the chamber with one eye open and the second eye almost awake. An Ning, the forgotten child, the hungry land's mouth, the victim, the curse, the thing Shen Yao had carried inside her since childhood. As Shen Yao and Han Rui reached the tunnel, the child spoke again. Heart. Shen Yao turned. The child's one open eye watched her. Not angry, not pleading, waiting. Shen Yao held up the red thread key. I'll come back. The child tilted its head. Behind it, the wooden heart box began to beat. Empty, but beating. The chamber collapsed behind them. Shen Yao and Han Rui ran upward through a tunnel that should not have existed. Dawn light grew ahead, pale and grey. The air changed from grave cold to morning cold. Sirens returned. Distant voices shouted. They burst out beside the foundation pit just as the first sunlight touched the construction site. The city was still there. Police lights flashed beyond the fence. Dust drifted over silent excavators. The underpass entrance behind them was gone. Only a patch of fresh black soil remained. Shen Yao fell to her knees. Han Rui collapsed beside her, breathing hard. For a moment neither moved. Then Shen Yao opened her hand. The red thread key lay in her palm. Real. Her phone buzzed. She almost dropped it. The screen was cracked from top to bottom now. A final message appeared. The fifth rule has been given. Do not give the child your name. Do not keep the child's heart. Dawn has passed. One eye is open, one eye remains. Then the final door is under the hospital. Bring the witness, bring the heart. Do not bring the mother. Shen Yao looked at Han Rui. He was staring at his wrist. The 5 black marks were fully visible now. His face had lost all color. Yao, he whispered. The marks on his wrist moved. Not spreading. Writing. One word formed beneath his skin in thin black lines. Witness. Shen Yao looked down at her own marked hand. The 5 fingerprints were gone. In their place, directly over her pulse, one word appeared. Heart. The ground beneath the construction site gave a soft, hungry thump, like something far below had heard them breathing. Shen Yao closed her fist around the key. Part 3 ends here. To be continued in Part 4. The Final Door.